In this movie, I want to show you how I use both symmetry and asymmetry to compose my logo designs and how, when combined with the modular format, allows for a greater range of creative exploration. Everything that I create, be it illustration, icons, or in this case, logo designs, all start off with drawing. And when you're dealing with symmetry, drawing is very easy. You only have to draw half of it, and you can create the whole design from that half. Now, in a previous movie, I showed you one exploration on a project I did for Gallo Wines for a product they had called Extinct, and it showed a bird. Well, this is that same project, but a different species of bird. I had just done a generic kind of bird based off of a crow. That's what inspired that iteration. And this iteration is based off of an eagle. And it all starts off with drawing. And then using symmetry, I'm able just to build half of it to create the whole bit of art. So this shows the half I created. And the way I build, whether it's geometric shape building, as you've seen already in this course, or it's more organic, free-flowing shapes, such as the wing shape shown here, I still use build methods that facilitate both approaches and make it go faster. In this case, shape building. So I can select this shape, select the head shape, and just remove from shape to get what I ultimately want, which are these two separate shapes. Once I have these two separate shapes, this is when I can do additional building. I'll select this, make a clone of it, and intersect it with the eye to create just the part of the pupil I want. Then I can select the outer part of the eye. And on this, I want to go ahead and punch it through on that shape. And I'm going to select the beak. And this is also going to be removed from the shape as well using the Pathfinder as shown there. So I end up with this shape as you see here. Now, once I have everything composed like this and built like this, it's easy just to select all my shapes, clone them, Command-C, Command-F, and then use the Reflect tool, find the center point, click on the anchor point, and then you can flip your artwork like this. Once I get this, I can select only the shapes I want, such as the head shapes, use Unite, fuse them all together into one cohesive shape, and then this allows me to go ahead and start colorizing it. In this case, because I'm making the negative shape of a wine glass, I want his head to be red, which represents the wine. And then I'm going to select the other shapes. We'll go ahead and color those. I'll unite them into one cohesive shape. And you can see how the brand mark for this exploration turned out. Now, when composed with the actual type, it looks like this. So that's why I use symmetry a lot in my logo designs, because it makes the process go faster and it's not super hard to work with. Now, this same methodology that I showed you here in creating and crafting this brand mark can be applied to more intensive, complex visuals for branding. So there was a company in Louisiana called Blaine Kern Studios, and these guys build most of the floats that you see in Mardi Gras, all the elaborate floats with all the effects and sculpting on them. These guys create it. So this was one of the initial explorations I created for them. They went with another design I came up with, but I used the same symmetric methodology to create this. Only had to create half of it, flipped it to create the whole that you see here. Now, when it comes to using symmetry, the modular format of logo design, and make sure to watch that movie on modular formats, really plays its part and works well with a symmetric and an asymmetric format. So here's a symmetric format applied to a modular, well, here's a modular design layout, but it's handled in a symmetric way where all the elements are symmetric with one another, centered, that is. We're going to show you another modular one, but this one is asymmetric in how it's handled, more of a horizontal format. We'll show you the next one, which is an additional horizontal format, but once again, it's playing off of the modular aspects of this layout, but it's handled in an asymmetric way, but it still looks like part of the brand family to the fundamental one I've created here. All of these work together. Here's another one. And this one, I'm not sure if you call this symmetric or asymmetric. I'm calling it asymmetric, but it's also somewhat symmetric in that the elements of the plane wing actually are centered upon the elements of the type. So that kind of gets categorized into two areas there, I guess you could say. And then my personal favorite out of this brand system I pitched was this kind of encapsulated version where it's held within a badge or a nesting shape of the square. And I like this one because obviously this technology for this company is all about flying and for pilots. So I like the aspect of the blue representing the sky and the plane flying through the sky. So it worked well in that respect. But it's how you can think about using symmetry and asymmetry within the context of modular formats to really get a lot of different iterations going that you can use in a brand system you pitch to your client. Now let's take a look at another one. Here's a simple logo identity I did this is for IT company that creates network security systems for servers. And this was a product of theirs called Shadow Meter. And it's about detecting problems within the network, hence network forensics. And I played off of kind of the secret agent type thing. And he's disclosing the analytics that he's uncovered on the network. And so this would be a good example of modular symmetry in action. It's modular in that the logo can exist on its own outside of the context of the type, but it's symmetric in terms of how it relates to the type. Here's a good example of modular asymmetry, where it's the exact same elements, but handled in an asymmetric fashion. And this ended up being their horizontal version that is part of their greater brand system that you can see here. So you have symmetry, asymmetry working together with a modular format to produce a nice assortment for this brand system for this client. Now, this works with any type of client, any type of modular system. So let's say this is a logo for a place called Joe Roasters, and we want to create a couple additional examples that are asymmetric in nature. This one would be symmetric, and it's handled with the modular format, but we want to create a couple asymmetric examples. So we're going to copy this, and we'll go ahead and grab our type here, and we can separate the types so they're two different shapes. And I'm just going to start sizing this up a little bit, and we'll go ahead and move this over. And it's all about just looking at my design, and I'm just going to make some adjustments. We'll select this. I'll move this over like that. I think that's a little too big, so we'll scale it down. And I think that looks good. So here's one example of an asymmetric format using the exact same elements. Maybe it's more of the horizontal version of this brand system that we're going to work with. We'll do another one here, and we'll get a little crazier with it. We'll move these out so we can focus on the type. We're going to make this really big. And what I'm going to do here, and this is where Smart Guides comes in. Notice how I'm over the anchor point, so I'm going to select it. I'm going to snap it to the center anchor point on the type. Then I'm going to lower this one until it snaps to the bottom one on the O. So it's sitting behind the typography, so you can see that it's back there. But I'm going to get rid of this O, and now it replaces the O with the brand mark itself. That's kind of the look and feel I was going for. Now I'm going to select this, and I'll snap it to that to make sure it aligns with the O there. Bring it down, and then I want to drag this out and kind of snap it to the end here. Notice how I'm going over the anchor point of the E so it finds the edge of that E, and then I'll release it. I usually pull stuff out like this and then slide it back in just so I can see how shapes are relating to one another. Now the key here is I don't want this to fall lower than the J. And if I select both, you can see it slightly is. So I think I have the roasting type too big. So I want to kind of bump that down a little bit. Like, we don't want to do it too much. So let's try it, I don't know, right about there maybe. And on this one, I want it to be in a little bit. It doesn't have to line up with the edge of the O. And we'll select this and we'll isolate the type, and on a line, we'll align with the bottom. And I think that looks pretty good. And so that gives us a second iteration using an asymmetric format within the context of a modular system for logo design. So I love working with modular formats. It makes creative exploration far more flexible and adaptive to creative and clever compositions. And symmetric motifs allow you to build your designs quicker without compromising the craftsmanship. And that's why I gravitate almost all of my identity development using a modular format, because when combined with symmetric and asymmetric solutions, it becomes a powerful creative arsenal for logo design.